Welcome to the All New Marvel Roundup, your guide to the weekly Marvel comics and your roadmap through BattleWorld. I am Phil&rsquo, and with me, as always, every week is...
Charlie, yes, sir.
Alright, let's get to it. The first book I got was Uncanny X-Men 34, and this one... Well, we see Mystique in the beginning talking to someone who we're supposed to believe is Cyclops, and she's trying to seduce him by changing shape into Emma Frost, then Jean Grey, and then Wolverine. But he's not having any of it, and then we see earlier where Dazzler is meeting with Maria Hill because... Mystique took Dazzler's place for a few months because Dazzler had been the mutant liaison within S.H.I.E.L.D., and then Mystique just made a mess of all that. But then we're back to Mystique and Cyclops, and Mystique says to Cyclops, she goes, "Well, why aren't you talking about that affair we had?" And he's like, "I didn't mention it because I'm trying to have a real conversation." And Mystique's like, "All right, I appreciate that, but Scott Summers and I never had an affair." And the person who looks like Cyclops says, "Well, to be fair, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Scott Summers would sully himself with you." And then we see Cyclops is really Dazzler with some of Scott Summers' old students who he just abandoned. She looked like Cyclops thanks to Emma Frost's former students, the Cuckoos, who are all telepaths. They turn on the stereo and Dazzler blows Mystique out the window. She finally has magic catch her right before she hits the ground. But at the end of this, it looks like... Well, it's going to be continued in Uncanny X-Men 600, so we go from issue 34 to 600. But it looks like Dazzler is going to... I don't know if she's going to be the new teacher to these kids now that Scott Summers and Emma Frost pretty much abandoned them. Good issue. Give it a big thumbs up. Next up, Guardians of the Galaxy number 27. The cover has them all walking off in different directions, and it says "The End" with a question mark at it. Let's see. We pick up where we left off last time. Someone's attacking Spartax. The Guardians are repelling the Chitauri. Haven't they gotten around since the Avengers movie? But they've come for Gamora because she's the daughter of Thanos, and they have a bone to pick with Thanos. They're led by a guy I'm not familiar with him. I guess it says he's a living planet, but they show a figure standing on the planet. Charlie, have you ever heard of Kindun? Kindun?
So the only thing I know is that he's not familiar with him.
Yeah. But anyway, they repel the attack, and at the end, Gamora says, "I have to leave. I can't be making you all target." So she leaves, and at the end, Kitty's talking to Star-Lord because he's all moping around, and she's like, "No matter what you decide, whether you decide to be the king of Spartax or janitor or space pirate, whatever," she's like, "I'll be here with you no matter what." Then it says there's only Secret Wars.
Oh.
None of this matters.
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Do that in Super Connected.
Thumbs up. And let's see, next up, Moon Knight number 15. This one is pretty intriguing just because we see, I guess, the aftermath of a battle between Moon Knight and I'm guessing they're calling it the Boogeyman because the title is Boogeyman and the creature pops out of children's closets, it looks like. But, yeah, Moon Knight's all beat up and broken, bloody. He gets, I guess, after he passes out, a couple people bring him to, looks like an abandoned building, but he's all bandaged up and everything. And once he's alone, he starts talking to Khonshu, and he's like, "Why have you forsaken me?" And Khonshu's like, "I didn't forsake you." He's like, "You undertook this battle without my permission." He's like, "I can't help you." And Mark Spector is like, "You can help me or you won't help me." And then he says, "I don't need your help. I can do this myself." But remember, he asks Khonshu, "Why did you forsake me?" So he goes down to his arsenal, I guess, and the next thing we see is the Boogeyman pop out of a little girl's closet until Mark Spector in his Moon Knight costume breaks in and just strafes the boogeyman with automatic machine guns, and he has some pistols there.
That's our Spectre.
Yeah, and the little girl's like, "Oh, another boogeyman," and he's like, "That's right." Instead of saying, "No, not the boogeyman," he goes, "That's right." He goes, "So get your parents and run and don't come back." But the most interesting part is the end of the issue when Boogeyman's still barely alive on the floor, and Moon Knight's like, "Did you say something?" And the Boogeyman looks up at Moon Knight and says, "Why, Khonshu? Why have you forsaken me?"
Ah.
So I don't know if Khonshu's playing both sides of the street here or what, but
Yeah.
But
it just have a big because.
Yeah, big thumbs up.
Yeah.
I like this book, really, especially since Cullen Bunn took over as writer, but very good. And my last one on my own was Daredevil 15.1. This, well, I think the current series is on, like, maybe issue 16 or something now, but I like this because they tell you where it takes place. The following takes place before Daredevil 15. Matt Murdock, for everyone who's been reading the regular series, knows, the whole world knows he's Daredevil now, so his girlfriend, Kirsten McDuffie, her father, he's a very rich man, he's been paying Matt to write like an autobiography of his life, and so I think Matt took the deal just so he could pay for Foggy's medical bills, because he's going through cancer treatments, but like I was telling you the other day, there's 2 flashback stories in here. The first one must take place pretty early on in his career because he's still wearing the yellow suit. And it shows him in Central Park, and he apprehends a guy who he believes is a murder suspect because he sees a guy with the gun in it, the murder weapon, a gun in his hands, and blood on him. So he takes him in, and then I'm guessing here they're going like they did with the Daredevil Netflix series, because it looks like Matt's still working for like a big law firm, and he gets assigned the case to defend the guy who he captured as Daredevil. He's pretty apprehensive at first. He's gonna tell the guy to take they're offering him a deal which will give him like 10 years. Matt's gonna tell him to take it until he starts to listen to the guy, and he's still pretty new, I guess, at lie detecting, but he starts to have doubts whether the guy's guilty, so he starts questioning guys and figures out there's 2 other guys there, so he tracks them down to a storage locker where they're in the midst of, it looks like stealing some super villain weaponry, like the one guy has picking up a set of Dr. Octopus's arms, the one guy is shooting at him with the Shocker's gauntlet. But he eventually takes them down, and he questions them, and realizes the guy he caught was innocent, because the guy even told him, he goes, I happened to pawn the body, I saw the gun, I just picked it up, I don't know why. So Matt eventually gets him freed, and he goes back, and he's talking to his boss, and he says, you were gonna tell the guy to take the deal, and now you weren't. He's like, because you believed he was guilty at first. And he says, well, what did you learn? And then they show Matt and Foggy opening their offices for the first time, but meanwhile you can see the boss telling him, you're an attorney, you don't get to play judge and jury, there's a reason why justice is supposed to be blind. He's like, never forget that. Then we get a page or 2 in the present day. But then the rest of the issue is a little further in his career. It says this story takes place after Daredevil Volume 1, number 57. So he's in the red suit, and he's fighting Diablo, it's the irony of this battle is Diablo hits him with some kind of chemical that is supposed to enhance all your senses so much where you're just overwhelmed. But I don't know if it's because he's blind, so one of his senses doesn't work, but he's able to focus through everything, and he captures Diablo, leaves him for the cops tied up, and as we see on the last page, he goes to see Karen. And I don't know if they're saying this is before he told her who he was or right after, but he's basically crawls to her doorstep, she takes off his mask, and they show them embracing on the last page. And that's it. Like I told you, I really like this book. This is my pick of the week. Big thumbs up.
Very cool.
All right, so what did you read?
Okay, well, first off, I just have to say that I talked with my comic book seller down at Paradox Comics. They do listen to this show, Paradox Comics in North Arlington.
Hi, guys.
And we both agreed that I should just start smoking crack because it's probably going to be a cheaper vice than comic books. So just to pick up from two books that I had in Hawk last week, Inhumans Annual and Howard the Duck. Thumbs up on both. With Inhumans Annual, this wraps up the current Inhuman story arc before we get to Secret Wars, because there's only Secret Wars. Essentially, Lineage, after basically eating the Capo, the CEO of Enelux, he has gained complete knowledge of the Inhuman Codex, which is sort of this little scepter-y thing that gives you knowledge, but also power over not only Inhuman DNA, but also human DNA. So basically, he uses his powers to reach out to all the Inhumans in the world. And it's fun when we're looking at all the Inhumans in the world. We actually see Flowers there. So she gets her first little appearance in Marvel Universe there, although she's looking very human, so she may not have been exposed to any Terrigen yet. So Raina may yet come back, at least in the comics. And basically, he uses the scepter to make all of the humans in Jersey City go nuts and start attacking each other. Kamala Khan sends Lockjaw to get a bunch of other Inhumans. Spider-Man's amazing casual acquaintances, if you'll recall from the one-shots, come and they sort of defend Jersey City. Meanwhile, Medusa is fighting Lash out in Pennsylvania. And Karnak and Capo in Hell, or an afterlife of sorts. Karnak is looking for the way out. He finds the way out, smashes through the door, and as it turns out, he was actually inside Lineage the whole time, because as it turns out, Lineage is part of Lineage was part of Karnak's line, and Lineage had the knowledge of all of those who existed within his line. So basically, when they all died, they essentially all go into Lineage. Crazy stuff, I know. Huh. So he bursts out of Lineage's chest. Lineage gets captured by Medusa. ISO turns off the Codex, so all the humans stop massacring each other. And Queen Medusa is queen of the Inhumans again. And Inferno's nephew is born, and he looks like a little A-bomb. Very cute. Little baby hand that's blue and spiky. Good book. Good way to round out the Inhuman storyline before we get into BattleWorld Inhumans, which looks pretty dark by the previews we recently saw. Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck is, as you may recall, last month he was being mugged by Aunt May. And it turns out, yes, that was Aunt May. The guy who hired him, Richards, always remember that his name is Richards, to get the necklace back, is very upset that Howard found it and lost it, and found it again, and then got it stolen again by a geriatric mugger. Starts staking out the park as a local duck, runs into Aunt May, who agrees to help Howard find out why she mugged him. They find out that it's because of the Ringmaster. The Ringmaster, his circus of crime has been closed down, so he has basically taken to hypnotizing old people to mug people and, keep himself in a simple lifestyle to which he's become accustomed. Richards comes back at the last moment, snatches the jewel away from Howard, and we find out that he is actually Talos the Untamed, who is a Skrull who actually cannot transform. He has superhuman strength and endurance. He's actually a Hulk villain. And he took the name of Richards, obviously, because, the Skrulls and the Richardses have a long history. And we'll find out next month, what happened with all that. Second storyline is Howard gets hired by people who impersonate superheroes at parties. The Wolverine is asking for help because since Wolverine has disappeared, his bookings have gone severely down. You want to find out what happened to Wolverine. Howard finds out that he's dead, and then they have as an interesting side note in this, Frank Castle is there because he's been hired to play the Punisher at a mafia party, who unfortunately did not realize they'd actually hired the Punisher. As always, a great story with Howard, very meta at times. Got very close to breaking the fourth wall several times. Reminded me why I do love Howard the Duck. Still a great book. Very big thumbs up. Now, the actual books from this week. Okay, starting with the ones that are before Secret Wars, because we know there is only Secret Wars now. We have Loki, Agent of Asgard. Cool book. Loki is not in it very much, though, which is interesting. We open up really with Odin talking to the Council of Worlds, saying, hey, the old gods are back. And actually, it's very interesting because when the old gods, the gods above gods, actually appear, they say, the Beyonder line, slay your enemies and all you desire shall be yours. Suggesting that they are the Beyonders. They had thought the gods above gods had been destroyed when Thor ended the cycle of Ragnarok, but now they're saying the true end of all things is here, and so we can come back and we can do whatever we want. We cut to now like 20-year-old Loki, and he's got chest hair, and he's feeling very dapper about himself. And he is the new Loki, because he's not the old Loki or the kid Loki, and he doesn't die. He is his own thing now, and he is the god of stories. And he puts on his cloak, and when he has the cloak on, now he's Girl Loki, which is cool, because that'll come up in A-Force later. He and Verity Wells are watching the last battle between the Ultimate Universe and the 616, and Heimdall is watching all of the various goings-on throughout the universe as everyone prepares for the end of the world. Freya reminds Odin that there are super secret weapons that they have hidden away, and meanwhile, Loki goes to hell and says all he wants is the world ends is some time with his kids. So they release the good old classic Midgard serpent. What's his name? Jormungand, and I'm sure Fenris is there too, and all of Loki's kids, and of course they chopped off Beldar's head because Beldar is immune to all things except for Holly, because Loki forgot to ask Holly not to kill Beldar. Great little bit of mythos there for you. So Loki leads his army of the dead. This is old Loki, by the way. Old Loki, not young, handsome Loki. This is old, ugly Loki. Leads his army of the dead against Asgard, and then Odin shows up with the super weapons, and it's some sort of super cosmic Gatling gun and M16 rifles. I don't know what this is, but apparently the secret weapons they had are guns. I don't know, but looks like it's going to be getting exciting as we go to the end of the world. Loki is one of our titles that goes on throughout all of Secret Wars, so we get to see what the gods are doing as the world ends. Gotta feel much like Inter itself, where if you weren't reading Loki, you didn't understand what was really going on in Inter itself. Going to get a feeling that Loki is again going to be your backdoor book into what goes on in BattleWorld. Next one, we have Avengers World. This is a good story. Essentially, I think this might be the last Avengers World before time runs out. It's not quite clear. There's two stories. One deals with the Cabal. One deals with Sunspot's Avengers in the Savage Lands. Essentially, it opens up with on the Fantastic Farm, where Reed Richards is a farmer with super advanced tractor bots who help him with his farm. And and the sky's gone red, and who should show up but Namor? We wonder what could happen next. Next, we flash back to Savage Lands, where Hyperion is talking to Sunspot about, Odin's son is very despondent and doesn't know what to do, yada, yada, yada. And Sunspot says, don't worry, I'll use the old Sunspot charm on him, and we'll get him where we need to be. Meanwhile, Thanos and the other Cabal have been called to a meeting by Namor. They realize Namor is not there because Namor is already on the planet that they're about to destroy. And Thanos sees Namor there. Thanos is upset because Namor says, I'm going to destroy this planet so that you don't get the chance to murder and savagely be evil on the planet. And Namor basically sucker punches Thanos, and Thanos then beats the holy hand grenade out of him. Meanwhile, back in the jungle of the Savage Land, the Scientist Supreme and his second, Dr. Rappaccini, come in battle armor to kill everyone and get AIM back from them. To recall from last issue, Sunspot basically beat the holy hand grenade out of the Scientist Supreme and physically and took complete control of AIM. And now when they come back and start attacking the little zebra kids, Thor shows up with his mighty axe and, does away with them, beats the holy hand grenade out of them again and again. When we're cutting to Submariner and Thanos is basically breaking his hands on Thanos, and that is what happens. And then, as he's being strangled by Thanos, he tells him basically what he had done, which was he had given to Reed Richards the detonator for the bomb, and explained to him what was happening, explained to what happened to be done, and tells him, when you'll hear the great battle and when it goes quiet, that is your time to destroy your world, to save your universe, yada, 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 and you'll take out the Cabal as well. Now, I'm going to get to that in a minute because that goes to a bit of a problem I have with this book. Mm-hmm. Basically, the Cabal, of course, escapes through teleportation. They have properly humbled Namor, and the Cabal goes on caballing and being evil. Meanwhile, Thor and Hyperion and Sunspot are feeling better about themselves because they're about to go and have the battle with the Beyonders. And the last scene is Namor making contact with the Illuminati to do the setup where they eventually betray Namor and drop him on the world with the Cabal when they were trying to lose the Cabal. What I don't get about this is why Namor told Farmer Reed Richards to wait till the sound of battle was done. Wouldn't it have made more sense in the middle of battle before you tell Thanos your diabolical master plan? Say, as soon as you hear the battle start, push the button, and you're going to take out the Cabal. Yes, you'll destroy your world, but your world is dead anyway. But you'll stop these people from murdering all the people you love, and you'll also get the chance to murder them too. So not quite sure on Namor's plan, except for the fact that, like most things with Namor, not well thought out.
I was gonna say, Namor's not a deep thinker.
Yeah, he really, and again, Illuminati, not the best people to have been put on this job. You got it's like Namor the big dumb guy and a bunch of smart nerd guys, but nobody that like moves planets for a living. It's like, it really, wouldn't this have been a job for Galactus to say, hey Galactus, we're having this problem with planets showing up. Why don't you eat a few? I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah, really. It's like, hey, you always want to eat Earth, Galactus? Tell you what, we're having a supply coming in. So
you're right. Where was Galactus? Was he full or something?
Yeah, I guess so, man. I was like, oh no, man. I told you guys I wasn't going to eat Earth when you threatened to nullify me. So, you on your own, I guess. I don't know.
We meant this Earth.
Yes. But anyway, he was just being a jerk the way Galactus can. Well, actually, no, because Galactus is like best friends with Franklin Richards now. So it's basically no one really thought that through. Again, the Illuminati not seeing things from as many angles as they saw. Because like Cap said, as soon as they said, hey, let's build a bomb, that's all they thought of. That's all they really did, Mm-hmm. They say they did some other things. I think they were just, working on that dang bomb the whole time, Maybe they did some half stuff, but, they were mostly bomb makers. And why not? Because they're led by Reed Richards, bomb-throwing lunatic.
Bomb happy fool.
Bomb happy fool. Yes, okay. Next, we got A-Force. Our first BattleWorld book that we'll be reviewing. Okay, so A-Force. This is basically all the female superheroes, including girl Loki. Hey, well, she's there. And essentially how it is She-Hulk is the Baroness of Arcadia, which is, if not a paradise, a really nice place to live on BattleWorld. It's like got a nice Mediterranean climate, beautiful architecture, and it's ruled by She-Hulk. Although people are kind of grading under She-Hulk's rule, because even though it's under She-Hulk, she still has to answer to Doom. And somehow Dazzler can fly now. I don't know why, but we're going to go with it. Dazzler can fly in this storyline.
Is she using her powers, or is she just lifting in the air?
She's just flying. I don't know. It's not quite clear. Maybe what's her name from the Runaways with the magic powers is magicking her flying, but I mean, she's surrounded by light flashes, so I'm guessing it's her flying. So Dazzler can fly now, so sure, why not? Anyway, they're attacked by a bunch of megalodons. Sure, why not? And the A-Force goes to fight them, and honestly doesn't do that good of a job against sharks. They basically wind up throwing them into the city, and then Ms. America Chavez, picks up a shark, throws it out, and it winds up smashing a little bit of the wall and falling into the zombie lands. Which, when you break the wall, because that's Doom's wall, and it's for our own protection, who should show up but Sam Wilson, Thor.
Sam Wilson?
Yeah, Sam Wilson's a Thor now. He's got wings and he's a Thor. And he says, America, you're under arrest for breaking the wall, and now you have to go serve on the wall for the rest of your days. And we get a nice little scene of She-Hulk arguing with Doctor Strange about how, or is it Doctor Strange? We'll get to that in a minute too. Arguing about, look, she's a kid, she was protecting her city. It was the heat of battle. And she says, doesn't matter. She has to go to the wall. Anyway, a bunch of Thors show up, take her to the wall. She leaves her coat for Loki, which is a callback from the beginning of the book when Loki bets her crown against her coat that she's going to be late for the patrol. And basically everyone's very mad at She-Hulk that she couldn't save America. And then her and Loki sort of walk at Loki and why am I blanking on her name? Nico. Loki and Nico walk out. As it turns out, Nico and America were the wards of Loki in this story. So she's sort of their mom, which is a callback, of course, to was she on the Young Avengers? I'm not quite sure on that. But they leave and they seem to be plotting against She-Hulk there, but we don't know. She then goes and calls Namor, Namorita, and Namora to go find out what caused the Megalodon attack. And Medusa starts saying, if I was in charge, and She-Hulk says, but you are not. And when Namora and Namorita and Namor go looking for what it was, they find something that's glowy and scary, and they don't tell us what that is. Meanwhile, Nico is at Bishop Lighthouse. I'm assuming a call out to Kate Bishop, and she sees something fall from the sky. She assumes it's America, but it's not. It is what looks to be Eternity, or it's a woman covered in stars. I don't know if that's supposed to be Captain Universe. I don't know if that's supposed to be the remnants of Eternity, but it's something important. We don't know yet. Good book. Thumbs up. Nice bit of political stuff. It's a very political book. One thing I'm feeling about a lot of these Battle World books are that they are finding that that very Game of Thrones-y, very internecine conflict kind of storylines. Mm-hmm. And speaking of Battle World, let's go to Battle World, the comic. This one, you got two stories here. The first story is the Punisher, who has been bound to Doctor Strange. And this is one where you get a lot of questions but no real answers, because Doctor Strange bonded with Frank Castle when Doctor Strange's body was attacked by vampires. He then runs into the Infernal Four, which is Wolverine, Hulk, Spider-Man, and Ghost Rider, who had been trapped in the realm of Inferno. So they all got sort of demony, I guess. And they attack Frank Castle, who pretty much holds their own against them and basically kills the Infernal Four, except for Wolverine. He turns the Hulk back to Banner, and then Banner's like, "What? Where am I?" And then he says, "Sorry, Banner," and turns him to dust. Then he frees his Ghost Rider. He blows him up with a mystic bazooka, which is kind of the fun thing with this, is that, of course, it's Doctor Strange magic stuff, but it's also Punisher-y, weapony stuff. So then Wolverine stabs the Punisher through the chest, and the Punisher lets off a mystical hand grenade. The weapon of Watum, blows himself up, and only Wolverine is left. And he returns the dead body to Doctor Strange. And now here's a question that we don't know. Is that the Doctor Strange whose body was possessed by a vampire whose soul left him? Or what? Because we see Wolverine asking Doctor Strange, why were you so interested in bringing Frank Castle in alive? Why didn't you send your Thors? And he says, that's none of your business, but give Baron Summers my regards and tell him I owe him for the 3 men you lost. Oh. And Wolverine walks back, and we find that Doctor Strange is now bonded to Wolverine, and he tells Doctor Strange, if you think you've been to hell, just wait till we get home. If you think you've been through hell now, just wait till we get home to Inferno. A pretty decent story, as it were. Like I say, it opens a bunch of questions. Not the least of which is this 616 Doctor Strange? Maybe he survived and he's on the world. Because the last we saw him, he was with Doctor Doom battling Beyonders, so we don't know how that all worked out. And if that was 616 Doctor Strange, was that Doctor Strange the Strange that we see in the Court of Doom? And is he trying to get his soul back, or is he just trying to stamp out the other Doctor Stranges who are a threat to him? We don't know. Next story is MODOK, who brings in a bunch of alternate dimension MODOKs, which doesn't make a lot of sense, I suppose, if there's only one dimension left. But I guess maybe this, I just realized this might be our first hint that actually, no, there is still a multiverse out there, even if we don't realize it. So he brings all these MODOKs together, a future MODOK who actually is a good guy now, a super robotic MODOK, a spider MODOK, a 1602 MODOK, which is very cool because he's actually just a fat guy in a blimp who is an alchemist. That's as close as he got. And they all start fighting. And there's also a baby MODOK there who is very mad that MODOK isn't acknowledging her as his child. Baby MODOK throws a temper tantrum. All the MODOK battle. The Thors arrive because the Thors are always looking for members of AIM and MODOKs, and MODOK basically surrenders, saying, I am sick of myself, save me from myself. So it's kind of a little gaggy story. Interesting in its own way, but not one... like I said, I wasn't too impressed by BattleWorld #1. Stories in and of themselves are good, but you're like I say, when we're getting into this thing where we have $40 worth of books to buy, you go, is it worth it? So it's a thumb to the side. It's a good book. First story, I think, is solid. Second story, it's gaggy, but then again, like I said, maybe by suggesting that alternate reality still exists, it actually is giving us more than we even imagine. So, let's go 3/4 up on that one. It raises more questions than it answers. Now, this is the book I wasn't going to buy. I'm so glad I did. Ultimate End #1. When you want to talk about questions and no answers, this is the one for you. Basically, this takes place on BattleWorld, but it also takes place with the remnants of the 616 and the 1610. The heroes on this world are the heroes of the 616, and the heroes of the 1610. They have interactions with Doom. They know about Doom, which we find at the end, because the Doom sends the Thors into Manhattan. And yeah, of course, you know how New York centric the Marvel Comics is, because what survives? Manhattan.
Yeah.
And so you've got these Ultimate Heroes, and you've got the 616 Heroes, and you also have something else, which is an extra Tony Stark. Now, I don't know if this is superior Iron Man because he's drinking. I don't know if this is. It's not quite clear what Tony Stark this is. Is this 616 Tony Stark? Is this 1610 Tony Stark? But before that, Spider-Man runs in with the new Ultimates and is just really freaked out that everybody in the 1610 knows who he is, knows his real name. Peter Parker in that world died, and everyone found out that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and now he's Spider-Man, and there's like, oh no, we all know who you are, And Jessica Drew, of course, is a clone of Peter Parker, and this is Ultimate Jessica Drew, who is the Ultimate Black Widow. It gets crazy, but yeah. But we have our 616 heroes who all look like our 616 heroes. You have Cyclops with the X on his mask. You've got Hulk with the beard and the mohawk. And you've got this interaction between all these characters. Nick Fury. And again, I think that's supposed to be Ultimate Nick Fury as opposed to Nick Fury Jr. We have these two Tonys, and you think, well, is that Ultimate Tony and 616 Tony? As it turns out, no, because it looks like one of the Tonys, and we're not quite sure which one, and Dr. Cho, Amadeus Cho, built, prior to this, a little dimensional rip maker and pull an extra Tony into their universe who was going to the bathroom when he got pulled into this universe.
Oh.
And it's weird because there's one Tony in an armor. And this was the Tony, and the other Tony who's not in armor is the one who's being yelled at for folding space. And they're basically saying, this is all your fault, Tony. The merged universes is because you built this space fold that opened the passage. And we find out at the end that basically the 616 heroes and the 1610 heroes do not trust each other. But they're all going to work together to see where it goes, because they don't know what to do. And then, of course, the Thors show up. So it's going to be a battle, I guess, next one. I'm really fascinated by this book because it is a very strange book. It is a book with these heroes. I mean, like I said, this is the book when you were looking for Hulk versus Hulk. This is the book that's going to have Hulk versus Hulk, Tony versus Tony, Spider-Man versus Spider-Man. But how it's going to play out is really not something that I've ever imagined, because it doesn't seem, because first off, these characters seem self-aware. Meaning they aren't like everybody else on BattleWorld, where BattleWorld is all there ever is and all there ever was, and these are heroes related battle. That said, it doesn't seem like they necessarily remember the incursion. Doesn't seem like they know how BattleWorld got created. They think BattleWorld apparently was the fact that Tony Stark basically did something that screwed the universe up. I'm guessing that must have been a 616 Tony that they brought into the universe, because that's the Tony who is traveling away with the 616 heroes after they leave the Triskelion, probably back to Avengers Mansion or maybe the Baxter Building. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Big thumbs up for that one, because this is the Secret Wars. If you buy only one Secret Wars book and you're not buying the actual Secret Wars book, I highly have to recommend Ultimate End as your Secret Wars book to buy. However, buy more than one book, because why not?
If you're not buying crack.
Yes. Yeah, or buy crack because it's cheaper. Okay.
Oh, no.
No, don't do drugs, kids. Don't do Black Vortex, kids. You want to do Planet Hulk next?
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you think of Planet Hulk?
I guess it was a decent enough setup, but for a book called Planet Hulk, we don't see many Hulk except for in the beginning and in the last page.
Well, and then of course you have the origin of Planet Hulk at the end. So,
yeah.
Which again is a very interesting point in this. So here's what it's a very confusing book because, you have the Thors battling the Hulks, but it kind of seems like there's not much, basically like the Horrors come, they knock down the Thors come, they knock down the Hulk's castles, and then, then the Hulks rebuild their castles. It doesn't seem like it's not quite clear what the Hulk's incursions are, why the Thors are battling them, except for the fact that I guess probably you have to put the smackdown on the Hulks. We then cut to the Captain and Devil Dinosaur in the Colosseum, which is run by the Red King, who is, of course, Arcade. And basically what it is, it's Planet Hulk because after this he goes to Greenland. So at issue here is that and this goes into all of the deep, what do you call it, the Games of Thronesiness of the whole storyline. And like I said, that to me is kind of a bothersome aspect of this. If they're all going to be like a Game of Thrones kind of throwback, I think that's going to get a little too redundant over all the books. Although I guess they're going to take different tacks at it, and they're all going to be in different parts of the world. So that right now, of course, even though there's this intrigue about Captain America and Bucky apparently did something to save Cap's life, and now Cap has to go save Bucky from the Greenlands and meets up with a super intelligent Hulk at the end.
It just seems weird because like the whole gladiator thing, but when you see the flashbacks of Captain America and Bucky, it looks like they're like in a modern day war.
Well, yeah. Well, what I'm guessing is, and again, this is like I said, this is where you have the differentiation between the rest of the battle world and Manhattan. And it seems like the conflict with Manhattan is going to be central to the battle world storyline because, the people in Manhattan are the ones who don't see everything as, this is this is how it's always been. The people of Manhattan seem to know they're from a Manhattan that was smashed into this other world. That said, no one seems to be thinking, hey, what's with all the Thors working with Doctor Doom? So there are gaps in their memories as well. So that's another aspect of that. But so the Colosseum and the gladiator things, that's part of the larger battle world. And basically the Greenlands, where all the Hulks are, which is taken from this world where, as we see in the back of story, Amazing Science, where basically Hydra detonated gamma bombs all around the world, and Amadeus Cho released something to try and keep everyone from dying in the gamma irradiation, but it just wound up turning everyone into Hulks. And
I just wanted bacon.
Yeah, but delicious bacon. So I mean, the gladiator thing, it's a little weird, but I understand why it's there because it is a throwback to the original Greg Pak story of Planet Hulk. It is the idea that we're in a gladiator arena and now we're going to go out and meet the Hulks. So I mean, I because I read the Planet Hulk line, and I don't know if you read that story. Yeah, you probably did.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So I mean, I get that. I get where they're tying in, and I guess the idea is that it's a tie-in that isn't direct, if you will. It's a tie-in that is not what's the word I'm looking for? It's a throwback to that, but it's not directly tied to that. In the way that with all of these worlds, some of them are maybe more closely hewn to a storyline of a what-if world, whereas this one is just a literal planet of Hulks, and there are these throwbacks to the Planet Hulk storyline, like the gladiatorial combat, like the Red King concept. We have, that I think is what the real crux of this was. And now in reading the articles about this, with Bucky and Cap, you have the war bond. You have the men who through battle, and not just men, but in this case, two men who through battle are bonded together as heroes, as brothers for all time, for all eternity. And so they're exploring that concept in this landscape that is filled with Hulks and monsters, much like Planet Hulk was, except not so much filled with Hulks as filled with monsters, in this case, I think it's going to be Hulks and Monsters. They give you a little map of it. There's Fang Mountain, which I'm wondering if that's going to be where like Fin Fang Foom and all the other creatures are. Although there's a She-Hulk shore, and I hope we get to visit She-Hulk shore at some point, and I hope it's full of She-Hulks that don't put up with the Hulk's nonsense, just like the real She-Hulk. But I get it. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna, and here's where we get into that heavy question as we look through these books, because this is our first month in these books, and we're gonna have to decide, what books are we gonna pick and what books are we not gonna pick. I don't know if Planet Hulk's gonna make it into the rotation next month. It's interesting, but I'm not feeling like this is gonna be central to my reading. I'm not feeling like the way that I feel that, the way that I feel that Ultimate End and Loki are really going to be essential reads for the Secret Wars experience. I'm not feeling BattleWorld right now because, it was interesting, but I don't feel like we're going to get something important to the story. And when you got to make these cuts and say, hey, where's my money going? Yeah. You have to say, well, is this something I really need? Is this something I really want to carry with me into this next adventure? It's a good story, but it might be worth waiting for the trade, because it might be a story so separate from the rest of BattleWorld that, if you want a good sword and sorcery, if you want a good, hero in the Badlands story, that's great. But it's also important to remember, you also have Old Man Logan, which is going to be a hero in the Badlands, and Weird World, which is going to be a hero in the Badlands. So, there's a lot of heroes and a lot of Badlands on this planet. And this is actually, I think, going to be my real fear with Secret Wars, is that we're going to get this too much redundancy in story. Because, everyone wants to take, classic hero in this slightly tweaked environment and the world gone mad. If everything is Mad Max, if everything is Conan the Barbarian, if everything is Conan meets Mad Max, which I kind of feel like we're at right now with some of these books, it's like, oh, it's Conan meets Mad Max, Yeah. I think we're going to get bored with some of these stories. And hey,
the whole thing's kind of fractured. I think they tried to throw too much in the soup.
Yeah. So, I'm not willing to give it a thumbs down yet, but I'm not revisit it. So I'm gonna give this a 3/4 down. It's not all the way down because honestly, I liked the idea. I mean, why I picked up. I like the idea of Steve Rogers in the gladiatorial ring. Although I think I would have. Here's what I'll say, and to your thing about putting it's too fractured, too much in the soup. Steve Rogers fighting through the gladiators. That might have been a great story. That might have been something to read, to see how, basically Gladiator, how the great hero winds up in the gladiator pits and how he fights his way up to that scene we see where he defeats a clan of Wolverines, and not for nothing, a clan of Wolverines. I'm guessing these are all Wolverines who have lost their healing factor. That's the only thing I can guess there. Because they all seem pretty, unless he just like knocked them all out, So it's like, just, shut the shield, like, boom, 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 knock them all out. I win.
So you said 3/4 down?
Yeah, 3/4 down. Yeah. So it's not quite in the same way that I could have sort of gave BattleWorld 3/4 up. It's not all the way up because there was so much weakness there. This one, it's not all the way down because there is some good ideas here. But I think it would have been better if they just maybe focus on one thing, either intrigue in Greenland and what the Hulks are up to, or Captain America in the gladiator ring, sort of going back and forth. I kind of feel like, well, what are we missing here? What are we losing here? Now, here's a question for you. Do you think that super intelligent Hulk at the end was Amadeus Cho?
That's what I was thinking, maybe.
Yeah.
Because Bruce Banner at the end, when he changed, didn't look like that Hulk, so I'm thinking it might be Cho.
Might be, yeah. Anyway, so do you have a thumbs up or a thumbs down on it?
I'm giving it a thumbs to this side. I'm going to give it one more issue.
Okay, yeah. I don't think I'm going to give it another issue. But we'll see how so if it improves by next week, then I might get the third issue. So, there we go. And now, my favorite book of the week. You thought he was dead, and he is, but Deadpool's never more dangerous than when he's dead. Deadpool's Secret Wars. So I like this. I'm going to give it a thumbs up right off the bat. What did you think?
Oh, I liked it. Thumbs up.
Oh yeah.
It was a battle between this and Daredevil for my favorite of the week.
Yeah. Well, this. I mean, it's funny. It's sweet. It's deep. I love when the Absorbing Man absorbs.
He absorbs his cancer.
Yes, and he's like, "Yeah, I hope you got some of my healing factor in there too, bub." And fighting with Kang, and he kicks Kane in the nards, and in case you thought Kang have nards, he does.
Kick them right in the time spheres.
Yeah. So here's a fun bit at the end after everyone is dead and destroyed, and we see Deadpool has fixed his face. So does Deadpool have the powers of the Beyonder now? Because like Doom, he fixed his face.
Fixed his whole body.
Oh, he's hello, Deadpool. Yes, and and I love the artwork in this. It is so perfect 1980s art, and without really being derivative of that. I really feel like it captures it without being just an aping of the Secret Wars artwork. And I just love all of Deadpool's asides to everybody. My favorite line in this book was when Wolverine and Deadpool are talking, and Deadpool says, "How can you put up with all these?" And I'm trying to see the line he says, but he says 90% of my healing factor goes to my pride.
No, yeah,
that was classic. So, and that
I love when Professor X is telling Captain America, he's like, "I'm good at reading hearts. There's no man, there's no man in existence that equals your courage. You should lead us." And Deadpool's just like, "Kiss up, brown noser."
Yes, that's our Deadpool. And then for my money, I loved Contest of Champions. Yes. Where Deadpool and the B-teamers, they're like, "Why don't we get to play? Why can't we be in the Contest of Champions?" And they're like, "No."
The Rumble in East St. Louis.
Yes. But what's great about this is, and again, it goes to that breaking of the fourth wall, that ambush bugism, where once he starts talking, once he brings you into his universe, Deadpool's in control, and you can't. Because you think about it, the Grandmaster and Death, they could have just, if everyone is behaving as they should be, it could just wave his hand and they're gone. But no, they can't, expressly because Deadpool is the one in control. Deadpool is the real godlike entity in this storyline. That is freaking. That's scary, isn't it?
What if Deadpool's in control of the new Battle World?
Yes. I love Fantastic. I don't really care one way or another, but you did choose the Peregrine over us, and that kind of stinks. Yes. And just so you know, it actually was because he was French. The Contest of Champions, a little bit of trivia for you, was actually supposed to be this sort of, it was supposed to coincide with the Olympic Games or the Goodwill Games, but like one or the other, just before, because this was in the 80s, and everyone started boycotting the games because the Russians were there. Well, the Russians won't go to our games and all this kind of stuff. So they actually had created this thing where they're going to have all these international superheroes competing, and then the games it didn't go because all of the international people didn't go to the game. So they said, let's come up with a story. Well, let's just put all the heroes we have together, and that's what they did. And Howard unleashes the Ducks of Hell as Pink Sphinx, and Deadpool go to the Platinum Playroom. Yes. And they get the participant trophy. And at first Deadpool's upset, but then, what a woman. Death and Deadpool. I hope those two crazy kids make it work. I'm really excited about this book. I cannot tell you how excited I am. Oh, next issue we have the Hulk lifting the mountain. I hope we get more with Death. I hope we get a little Secret Wars 2 in here because I kind of want to. I mean, if anyone is ever going to address the fact that Death technically should be a man right now, it'll be Deadpool. Of course, hey, because when the Beyonder destroys Death, he has to take his human friend and turn him into Death, and then he becomes Death. Now he goes back to being a woman actually after that, so Death is still a woman, but it just Deadpool's the guy who's a little weirded by that.
He sacrificed Bruce Jenner?
No. That was back when Bruce Jenner wasn't known for that. Not going to pick on Bruce. He's going through a heck of a lot right now. So anyway, yeah. No, but anyway, I'm really excited to see how Deadpool handles that storyline if they ever get to that. But Deadpool, I mean, I love just everything Deadpool's doing. It's just a great book, and I hope we get another backup story next week where he does something else. Maybe he is in Secret Wars 2, or maybe he's in Atlantis Attacks, or maybe he's in the Serpent Crown Saga, where we're going to get another multi-person crossover. Oh, I'd love to see what Deadpool does during Acts of Vengeance. Does Deadpool have a villain that he can switch with? Is Deadpool a villain who's going to switch with someone?
Yeah, I don't know.
It'll be fun.
The Evolutionary War.
Oh, the Evolutionary War. That'll be great. Especially, this will be fun. If they do Evolutionary War, if he brings up to the Evolutionary stuff that's only now in continuity. Although, actually, as I said earlier, that is actually one of the weird things about this, is that when Deadpool goes up to Iron Man in Secret Wars, he doesn't know that it's actually James Rhodes.
Uh-huh.
So what's up with that? How does Deadpool, who's supposed to know all, doesn't know that? It's a clue about something. Anyway, I think that was all we rounded up this week. This is a nice extra long episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think next week's a short week though. So
yeah, hopefully.
And I didn't even get to talk about Supergirl Matrix #2 with Ambush Bug.
Record it, send it to me. I'll put it on World's Finest.
I just might do that. I've got to try and record Wayward Pines podcast this weekend too. So if I figure out how to use the record button on my phone, I'm going to do that.
All right then. Anyone wants to get a hold of me, any Marvel stuff, please email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I'm at nightwingpdp.
And I'm at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com, as well as at Charlie Esser on Twitter. And and don't forget to like the Facebook page.
Oh yeah,
Marvel Roundup, all new, all different Marvel. You're gonna have to add that because that's our new thing, which we'll talk about on Super in 8 months. The all new, all different Marvel universe coming your way.
All right, is that it then?
That's it.
All right.
And now for
next week,
it's only Battle.
That's right. Come back. BattleWorld is dangerous.